Hi and welcome to Recap Nation. Today, we will be recapping a 2021 movie called Wish Dragon. The movie begins with a man sighting the gate of heaven. As he approaches the gate, it closes, and he is confronted by a gigantic god who is playing a pipa. While shouting and complaining, the man asks the god to let him in, but the god uses magic to play the pipa and puts him inside a teapot. Back on Earth, in a small village in China, children were asked to write a dragon ideogram on a sheet of paper. A boy and girl who attended the school were thrown out of class for drawing a dragon instead of writing the ideogram. The whole class teases them, and even after school is over, a boy still teases Den. But Lina eventually throws a stone at the boy. She approaches Den and introduces herself. Den, in turn, does the same. They both become friends and decide to go home together since their parents don't pick them up after school like the other students. One day they create a kite in the form of a dragon, and as they release the kite, they are swept away, and the kite is destroyed. On that day, they made a promise to be best friends forever. Both children have been friends for years until Lina's father decides to move out of their small town and into the city. It was bad news for both children, but her father forced Lina to say goodbye to Den, leaving him lonely again. 10 years later, Den works as a food delivery man, and with his great driving skills, he delivers orders quickly across the city. Den focuses more on work than his own studies because his friend's birthday is approaching and he needs to buy her gifts. While driving, he sees his classmate named Wei and asks him to bring him his assignment to his house. In the evening, his last delivery is to go to a demolished building. He sees a door on the top of a staircase where a homeless man asks for his order. The man tells him that he is a god and that he has chosen him because he has a pure heart, and he gives Den a teapot before apparently disappearing into thin air. Den, on his way home, goes to a store to buy a suit, but he is thrown out because his money is not enough. So he moves to another store to get a cheaper suit. When he returns home to his village, everyone in the neighborhood is praising him and calling him hardworking and dedicated in school. But everything is ruined when Wei comes in with a note from their teacher about Den skipping classes. His mother, Mrs. Song, gets angry and begins to scold him all over the house. That night, Den wears his new suit and goes to the top of the house, looking forward to his best friend's birthday. Suddenly, a billboard appears with Lina's picture. She is now a model and is advertising for many brands. Den tries to find the right way to introduce himself to his best friend because he deeply misses her. After several attempts, his cheap suit ends up tearing into pieces. Den feels so sad about the reality, thinking she would still see him as a friend. When he says that he wishes he had kept their promise, the teapot he brought with him begins to shake, goes up in the air, and unleashes a huge dragon named Longju. The dragon introduces himself as a magical wish dragon who will grant 3 wishes to the owner of the teapot, and Den is his master. Den cannot believe what he is seeing and thinks that he is dead. Seeing that his master was confused, he demonstrated his powers and asked Den to make a wish. He went ahead and explained to Den that he had been trapped in the teapot for thousands of years and that Den was his last master. After him, his spirit would be released from the teapot, and he would be free in the spirit world. However, 3 men were sent by their boss on a mission to find the teapot, with a map on their hand. After knocking down the policemen, they found Den, talking alone on top of the building with the teapot. They chased after him till he stopped at an end street. Seeing the men, he laid his hand on the teapot in desperation and wished to learn Kung Fu. As they attacked him, he managed to dodge their blows easily. He dodged many attacks while protecting the teapot. He attacked and defeated them with different Kung Fu skills. Finally, the leader of the gang attacked and knocked him down. He took advantage of the distance and escaped. The next morning, Den thought it was just a dream, but when he tried to call the dragon, it came out and told him that he had only 2 wishes left. Den planned to go to his best friend's house to wish her a happy birthday and ask the dragon to give him a ride, but the dragon refused. They both decided to take a taxi, but when faced with a traffic jam that seemed to have no end, the dragon gave Den a ride. When they arrived at his best friend's house, the boy said his wish was about his friend. The dragon took Den and gave him the rules of the magic. He told Den that he couldn't make people fall in love, he couldn't eliminate people, and he couldn't make people time travel. Den told the dragon that he wasn't wishing for any of that. He just wanted to get his friend back, just as when they were kids. The dragon thought it was stupid to waste a wish on friendship. Den got ready for his second wish and asked the dragon to turn him into a prince, since that was the only way he could enter the party. The dragon ended up transforming him into an ancient prince. But Den went on and reformulated his wish and asked the dragon for a flashy car, nice clothes, and a servant to stand by him. The dragon granted his wish and transformed into a human to be his servant. Back in the village, the criminals continued to search for the location of Den's house. They finally got his address from the suit store. Back at the party, Din and the dragon arrived in style, attracting looks from all directions. Din spotted his friend dancing with different guests from a distance and took the opportunity to take her for a dance. She danced with him for a few seconds but didn't recognize him and ended up talking to him robotically, as she did to other guests. During the party, when it was time for Lina and her father to share a dance as the DJ had announced, Mr. Wang didn't show up. Din tried to save Lina from embarrassment by pulling off an impromptu magic show with help from Long. He demonstrated his kung fu mastery, and everyone was excited, but Lina just went to her room to cry. Din went and found his friend in the gift room and tried to comfort her. He cheered her up, and as he was about to reintroduce himself to her, her father's assistant Buckley came in so he could talk to Lina over video. When he saw Din, he asked his name. Din tried to play it cool and lied by saying his name was Dan. When the father asked about his work, he said that his family runs a chain of dumpling restaurants. Thinking Din was a wealthy suitor, he arranges for Din and Lina to have lunch later so that they can get to know each other better. At the end of the party, the boy flies home with his dragon. The next morning, Din leaves his house and is followed by Pockets and his gang members. They are surprised by the boy coming out of an alley in luxury. They then follow him as he heads out for lunch with Lina. At the restaurant, Din wishes to have the manners of a high-class person, but Long takes control of his behavior and makes him behave in a rude manner to the staff, which is unappealing to Lina. As Din tries to apologize, the criminals arrive at the restaurant. Din uses his kung fu skills to fight them off and get Lina out of there. After a chase, they end up at the festival outside, where Long transforms himself into a paper dragon to hide Din and Lina. Pockets and the gang members arrive in their own dragon costumes and use their own dragons to fight. After several blows and kicks with the help of Lina, Din manages to get himself and Lina to safety. When they get to the top of the building, they are surrounded by the gang. Long tells Din to trust him, and he creates a wind to take them to the neighborhood where the boy lives. Knowing who he really is, Lina is devastated that her best friend has been lying to her all this time. Lina recognizes the neighborhood as she walks through the street they are on as the one she used to live in. They go together to Din's apartment, where Mrs. Song remembers Lina and treats her to a meal. That night, everyone had a great time. Later that night, Din takes his friend to the rooftop to play and tells her that they can have a date. But Lina says she must leave and doesn't feel that she can keep seeing Din because she has expectations and standards to meet because of her dad. Din is hurt and disappointed. He asks Long to give up his third wish and just make him rich. Long then reveals through cloudy imagery his backstory. As the emperor, he demanded wealth and respect to be the greatest among all the other rulers, but nobody was ever happy around him, and he was always alone. His daughters were married off to other royal families but lived unhappily, and his son was sent off to war and came back dead. When Long died, nobody was there to mourn him, and when he approached the gates to heaven, he was denied by the god and was transformed into a wish dragon as punishment for his greed. He feels that he has failed all his previous masters in learning the meaning of life until he met Din. He told the boy that by following the path of gold, he would lose valuable people. But even so, he gives the boy the chance to make his wish. Suddenly, Lina's father arrives with Pockets and his gang. He asks Din to hand over the teapot as a means to help save his company, which is on the verge of financial ruin. When he refuses, Din embarks on a fight with the leader of the gang. After several kicks and punches, the man manages to kick Din and throw him to the ground. Pockets betrays Lina's father, throws him off a great height, and goes after the teapot for himself. He summons Long and asks him to grant him a wish. He wishes that everything his left hand touches will turn to gold. The criminals left, leaving Lina's father on the ground. Lina arrives and finds her father dying. Din goes after the criminals. He managed to enter a car and engage in combat with the leader. After fighting for a while, the teacup fell, and they managed to take possession. One of them wished for enough puppies to open up a pet store, and the shirt go-on wished for longer legs. Pockets accidentally turned the van into gold, which led to him and Din fighting for the teapot as Long flew them over the sky. Pockets overpowered Din and nearly turned him to gold, but Long took the hit and started to turn to gold himself, leading to everyone falling. Pockets accidentally touched himself and turned to gold, shattering upon hitting the bridge, while Din fell into the water and tried to save Long but could not save him since he was now fully encased in gold. Long found himself back in the spirit world as a human. The Pippa god said Long had completed his mission and was ready to allow him through the gates to heaven, but he wanted to go back to Din so that he could use his third wish. So he wished to become a dragon again. The old man agreed on one condition: Long would return to Din, and he wished for Wang to come back to life. He then woke up, and Lina was thankful. Din returned home with Lina and her father, and Din's mother served them dinner that night. Lina's father told Mrs. Song that she had made the best soup he had ever had. A while later, the two families opened up a soup and dumpling restaurant, with Din and Lina working there and maintaining their friendship. One day, Din found another teapot similar to the previous one. He took it to an alley in an attempt to speak to Long. As he did so, Long appeared before his eyes, and they met again. Long told Din that, in order to fulfill the boy's last wish, he needed to accept the journey of serving 10 masters before he would be allowed into the spirit world. Din hugged his friend as they said goodbye and placed the teapot on the back of a cart, which was being ridden by the human Pippa god. What did you think of this movie? Please comment below. And don't forget to support our channel by liking and subscribing for more videos like this.